Hi, everyone. Okay, so I wanted to briefly kind of compare and contrast what's going on. So, with with the Murdaugh um, documentaries. So I am going to say this precursor. So about two last year, last February, is when I first heard about the Murdaugh um, murder of the wife and the son. And the only reason why I heard of it is because I was researching for an article that I was writing about Kamala Harris and her campaigning in South Carolina. And so in that process, I've been sent the South Carolina newspaper, one of the main newspapers in South Carolina, and they send me like a daily update. And I also get like multiple updates. Like it's not just once a month, I like once a day. It's at least a couple of days, a couple of times per day. And the Murdaugh murders have been covered extensively in it. Now, granted, the I'm gonna be honest, with the first two times that I saw the article run and they were giving details about it, I was like, oh, he did it. And I just brushed it off and kept it moving. So at the end of this year, at the end of 2022, beginning of 20, no, I think more in the beginning of 2023, people started covering this topic a lot. And I was like, what's the deal? I mean, and then ABC did a documentary and I watched it and I was like, oh. And then CNN did a whole sit down and people were talking about it and I was just like, oh, can somebody run it down like why there and why is this one case getting so much notoriety? I don't get it. And um sorry, I didn't get it. And so I finally started getting it when I did watch um the two documentaries. And I know it took me a minute, so I apologize. Now, HBO did a documentary called Murdaugh Murders Deadly Dynasty. And they spent quite a bit of time talking about the young boy. That's how it starts. Talking about his youngest, because they had two sons, and the young son having getting involved in this boating accident that ended up killing Mallory. And he was drunk. All of them were drinking. Can I do a side note? I was talking to my husband about this today. And I do think that when you're young, drinking is cool because it's like forbidden, right? And so since it's so forbidden, I want to do it. However, I didn't drink until I was exactly 21. And I honestly didn't have I even to this day, I don't necessarily have the greatest desire to be drunk. And I can tipsy, maybe, but and even during some downtime, not the most pleasant, because 25 is not, I have yet to meet, I've met a few people who said being 25 was a good time in their life, but um 24, I think 23 to 24 is a tough time. Anywho, but 23 wasn't that bad. 24, 25 was rough. And um and I mean I literally was drinking a glass of wine a day. And I was not drinking more than a glass of wine, maybe two, but not like I would wake up and honestly I wasn't I mean I didn't work as much during that time because I was really kind of doing some transitioning in my life. And so my working wasn't as much, and I was really kind of going to school m- more. No, I wouldn't say I wasn't going to school more. That's a lie. I was still full time in school. I was in grad school, but I was getting my second master's, I think. I think it's my second. Um, so I think I was getting to a point. Yeah. So I mean, so, I was drinking. I mean, I would drink a glass of wine, just to take the edge off, pretty much. Uh, and but the idea that I would be, I I I also struggle because I'm gonna bounce around, so forgive me. I was thinking about doing it one at a time, but I prefer the Netflix series a lot more. And I'm gonna tell you that I'm glad that I watched HBO first because HBO does a really good job at giving you very um, surface level info about how well connected this family is, etc. But the Netflix one does interviews with all of the people who were, all of the young people who were on this boat when it crashed. They did interviews with the parents. And what I did not understand about the parents, and I know that there's not much you can do with kids who are over the age of 18 and um they're at college. So I get that I can't control what they do while they're at college, but what I can control is when you're in my house and how lackadaisical these parents were into talking about how their kids were drinking, knowingly drinking. Like these were not, they were teenagers drinking, and they knew how much he was drinking. Paul, I think that's his name. Yeah, Paul, how much he was drinking. And I'm like, how would you think that this would not be a good time to have a conversation with your daughter, especially when they got to the age of where he was driving, um, to have a deeper like it seems so cavalier because I would have been like, okay, this relationship is around dead. Um, and can y'all go out somewhere? No, you cannot go out somewhere. You know why? Because you were drinking. And I know that your boyfriend drinks. So you honestly think that me know that your boyfriend is drinking, think that you guys can go hang out all the time? I mean, we would be duking it out. Like, I mean, it would be a duke. I don't care how well connected your family is, his family is. What you're not going to do is you're not going to get in a car with my daughter, and she's a minor, and he's been drinking. And then I would have to have a conversation with her, like, you do know that there's dangers here. And so the Netflix one talks about how the first time they got into a car accident. I mean, he is drinking and driving. Not I drunk before I got in the car, but I mean, we're physically drinking while this man is driving the car, and you flip over. And she's calling the police. And my thing is, this is a deal breaker. They don't, clearly he hangs up the phone and throws her phone. And I'm just like, yeah, deal breaker. I feel like there's so many warning signs, and I know that, again, I'm going to put some of this on the fact that they're children. They don't know any better, but it took Mallory to die in this boat crash before his girlfriend was like, it's a wrap. But I still don't understand the parents' role. And I know that we're not supposed to push back too hard about the person that your child is dating, but I think that we need to be a little bit more mindful that your child is dating a man who is not someone that you would want your child to be talking about. Oh, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, but you knew he was drinking. Like, I'm stuck on that. But anywho, uh like I said, the HBO special was definitely much more surface level. I find that the Murdaugh Murders, a Southern Scandal, was a lot more detailed. And I got to the point where I was like, look, they were going to throw everyone under the bus. Like, I mean, the fact that they were willing to try to put his best friend, I mean, because see, these kids grew up with each other since kindergarten. Some of them are related. And the fact that they will be willing to blame someone that you have known almost your entire life for being the driver of this boat, you are willing to throw him under the bus to save yourself. Not just him, but like his entire family was going to throw him under this other dude under the bus. And thank God, this sounds horrible, that based on his injuries, it was impossible for him to be the one to drive the boat. Paul was absolutely the only one who was capable of driving the boat based on his lack of injury. Anyway, I mean, within 4 years, 5 people are dead. Um, and people are like, well, why does this so significant, y'all? Is because the Murdaughs have been in this same community for 100 years, and they are the ones that have been enforcing the law through the courts and judges and the judgeship. The court, they've been doing the prosecutor, the main prosecutor, and the judges for 100 years. And lo and behold, all this time, Alex has been lying and scheming, taking people's settlement money. He stole millions and millions of dollars from his own family's law firm. All these lawsuits, and this man got I don't know how this happened, but he got his insurance payment. His insurance company life insurance company actually paid him on his wife's life insurance policy. One thing that's not coming up in this either of the documentaries is that people believed at one point that his oldest son also has something to do with this. His oldest son has been kicked out of USC, University of South Carolina. And he's also just as much of a trouble. He's not as bad of a troublemaker as Paul, but all these people think that they can get away with whatever. And Paul pretty much, I mean, before he was killed, he hadn't served, it was two, almost 3 years since Mallory's dead, and they still haven't gone to trial. Law enforcement didn't even call the parents. So there is a wrongful death lawsuit, which that's a given. That's about right. Against the Murdaugh family. And it's like, I don't even know how. And then the question that they're asking is like, where'd the money go? Now that's the question of the year, because they said it went to drugs. He had an opioid addiction. They're like, look, even if he was that much of an opioid addict, he would have he stole enough money to buy 114 years of opioids. So that ain't it. And I was like, wow. Okay. So where'd the money go? Where did the money go? $1 million question. I think it's $24 million question. I don't know. They're like gambling. Here's the thing about South Carolina, and I like South Carolina for sure. There ain't nothing really to do in South Carolina, and even the stuff that you could do in South Carolina is still not that expensive. Like golfing is much cheaper, even at the top of the line golf courses, than it is, especially in California. What did you do with the money, babe? Talking about gambling? What? Yeah, I guess you could lose a lot of money in gambling for sure. But anyway, they don't know where the money went. The wife is like, because they didn't go to their lifestyle, because supposedly she was out here looking at a divorce lawyer because she hired a forensic. See, the HBO special didn't say this, but the Netflix one was like, she hired a forensic accountant, and she got all the details on where all the non-money has been going. All the money, the missing ends. So yeah, I'm concerned. I really, really am. And I'm, quite interested in seeing, well, Alex is in jail. He hasn't been the trial. I don't think, no, he was found guilty. Since the Netflix series ends with, and HBO doesn't end with finding out what happens to him, but he was found guilty for sure, but of murder. But I don't know about the I guess I could look it up, but I really don't know how much I care. But I think the more I do think that it's interesting in this sense that how, especially in small towns, and you become really powerful in like these small towns, like the lack of accountability is extreme, and how many crimes they committed before this is the thing. Like honestly, if he didn't kill Paul and his wife, I don't think, I really don't know if he would have been convicted of anything. That's the sad part. Yeah. Um, And I don't know if Paul may would have walked away with probation. I don't know if he would have ever seen it. I'm sure eventually they would have had to make a trial, but um, he probably would have just got probation. That's all of this is tragic. No, no. It's tragic not for the Murdaugh family, but it's tragic for the residents of this community to where especially Paul, essentially this family has been able to do whatever to everyone, and they have everyone on the payroll, from the police officers the to all of the different governmental agencies in the area. Like everybody looks the other way. Um, it's a shame. I do know that they did take down the picture, they did take Murdaugh's name off of um, the family law firm. But I will say that anybody still be a fool to go to that family's law firm and you and hire them to do anything for you because you're not getting your settlement checks. Um, it's a shame. It's a shame for this community as a whole. But yeah, check both of them out. If you don't want to check both and you want to have a more thorough look, then I would just do the Netflix one because that one's a lot more interesting, a lot more detailed than the HBO special.